Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Axion,
I'm Scint.
and we are continuing our discussion of The Tragedy of King Lear by William Shakespeare and our playthrough of Final Fantasy IX.
This has nothing to do with our topic of discussion, but Dagger/Garnet really is one of my favorite characters. And her and Vivi, there's just something about, very clearly anxiety-coded character copes with things that just hits a chord with me.
Okay, go ahead.
That's all I was going to say. Anyway, like I said, that was completely unrelated to anything because we're kind of looking at greed today. Greed and backstabbing.
Yay! I think that's all the mail I have, buddy. So, I guess I'll just begin this way. What made you want to put this particular subject into this King Lear discussion? I have a few ideas, but I want to hear your take on it.
The entire play.
I mean, that's fair.
The entire plot gets kicked off because of greed and treachery and backstabbing. Edmund has possibly the best position someone of his situation could ever dream of having. He's an illegitimate son in the age of patriarchal primogeniture. He would get nothing. He would get less than nothing in most situations. But the fact that his father loves him, has acknowledged him, and given him every advantage, he's in a great position, but it's not enough for him. So he goes out of his way to frame his brother so he can swoop in and steal the inheritance. Then you also have the other obvious ones of Goneril and Regan, who, yeah, I will lie through my teeth to make you feel good about yourself, Dad. Now hand over my inheritance. And yeah, it's just the entire play is we're greedy, we want more than we've already got, nothing we have is enough, and we are willing to fight each other over it. Not even fight, just we're willing to betray everybody over it. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, episode could end there if we wanted to. Bye, see you guys next time, but we're not going to do that. So, yeah, which messed up family do we want to talk about first?
Well, I think we have to start with Lear's, because that's where the whole story starts. We get Edmund's stuff pretty quickly, but the entire story really kicks off when Lear decides to have his moment where he wants his ego stroked. And 2 out of 3 daughters know exactly what to say to make their overly arrogant father happy.
Which is actually, this raises a concern.
Mm-hmm.
If he's just now deciding their dowry, because, we have this hour a constant will to publish our daughter's several dowers, that future strife may be prevented now. But Goneril and Regan are already married. That means they didn't have a dowry if he's just now figuring out what their dowry is.
I'm wondering if he got their marriages secured under something along the lines of a promise of a fragment of my empire when I die or step down from the throne. And that promise was alluring enough that both husbands accepted in lieu of a normal dowry.
That does kind of track with what Burgundy was saying of like, yeah, I'll marry her if her dowry is what you promised it would be. But yeah, Lear apparently does what Lear wants. He hangs out with Dumbledore in that regard. And yeah, it's, I will give you a portion of the kingdom equal to what... How much do you love me? Come on, tell me how much you love me. And if I'm happy with your response, okay, here you go. So obviously, most people, when faced with this, are going to apply the brown to the nose.
I was about to say, tell him what he wants to hear, rather than be 100% obvious.
Especially because, like...
Honest.
Especially because his daughters would, like, know him. But then you have Cordelia, who doesn't. So the only one who isn't greedy and doesn't seem too fussed about the land, she's like, I love you as much as a daughter is meant to love her father. I can't tell you I love you more than anything else, because what would be the point of me getting married if I didn't intend to love my husband? So I'm not sure why those two are married if they're being honest right now, meaning I don't think they are, so, you know, what you gonna do?
It's also an interesting turn of phrase, given that this is in the era where marriages were not necessarily for love.
Yeah, but you were expected to figure it out and deal with it. I mean, at least the women were.
I suppose that's true.
Like, are you not familiar with the phrase "lie back and think of England"?
Yes, I am familiar with that phrase.
Yeah, like there's a reason it came about. It's like, yeah, no, just do your duty, do what you're supposed to do, and love will come from that. And by love, we possibly just mean, you know, getting used to it.
Also, you will have kids, and you can find your love and pride in them.
Yeah, no thank. But yeah, so obviously Goneril and Regan just trip over themselves, flattering their father. Here's one that's actually really disturbing after we've read the rest of the play. I love you more than word can wield the matter, dearer than eyesight, space, and liberty. Gloucester's standing right there, by the way. So yeah, bit of an oof on that one, but yeah. Beyond what can be valued, rich or rare, no less than life, with grace, health, beauty, honor, as much as child ere loved your father found, a love that makes breath poor and speech unable. Beyond all manner of so much I love you.
Yeah, if it was coming from some love-struck teenager to their paramour, you might just buy that as being, well, Shakespearean level flowery poetry.
Regan's is actually really funny because, like, I am made of that self-metal as my sister, and prize me at her worth. In my true heart, I find she names my very deed of love. Only she comes too short that I profess myself an enemy to all of their joys, which the most precious square of sense possesses, and find I am alone, felicitate in your dear highness's love. Basically, Goneril says, "I love you, infinity." Regan says, "Infinity plus one."
Well, because
yeah, which she said more.
She's got to one-up her sister, otherwise Dad might think I'm not putting in my fair share. But Dad might not think I'm saying good enough.
Honestly, my favorite take on this is, like, the director tells Goneril and Regan just to be, like, completely disinterested and, like, examining their nails while they're saying this, because Lear's not paying attention to what they're doing, just what they're saying. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever staged it like that, but that's... I want that staging, because that's basically...
That would be funny.
Like, tragic funny, but funny.
Yes. Oh, hey. I'm gonna need to look up a guide on where to find those. Because that's a limited time thing. Right, I have to come back here later.
Yep, but so that's where the greed comes in for them, but then we have the treachery.
Yep.
Cordelia already, like, she knows her sisters, so she goes straight to them to tell them, like, her concern before she leaves with her new husband. Well, her new fiance. I guess they're not married yet.
Mm-hmm.
I maximized the window, and it scrolled me up.
Mm-hmm.
The jewels of our father with washed eyes Cordelia leaves you. I know you what you are, and like a sister am most loath to call your faults as they are named. Love well our father. To your professed bosoms I commit him, but yet alas, stood I within his grace, I would prefer him to a better place. So farewell to you both. Just like, I know what you two are like. Be nice to Dad. Prescribe not us our duty. Let your study be to content your lord who hath received you as for at fortune's alms. You have obedience scanted, and well are worth the want that you have wanted. So don't tell us what to do. You just gave up your chance to tell us what to do here. Bye. Because she knows what they're like, and she knows that now that she's not there to help take care of their father, he's basically on his own because they're very selfish people. But how often does this happen in real life with, like, you have people who are, oh, Grandma's getting up there. Let's go spend a lot of time with Grandma and wealthy great Uncle Bob because they've got to be updating their wills. I mean, that's the entire plot of Knives Out.
We still need to see Glass Onion.
We do. But yeah, so as we mentioned before, they immediately do not treat Lear the way he wants, and I do still find it up for debate as to whether or not they're fully in the wrong, because Lear is not described in the most flattering way of how he and his people are behaving in their households, and it's, really expensive, and he still wants to be treated like the king, even though he's given that up, and everything to do with that. But in the end, they do conspire against him, work together to make him feel unwelcome in their homes, and he ends up wandering alone and homeless in the middle of a storm. So
And going crazy.
Yeah. Oh, they've also attacked They've also attacked and arrested some of his servants. Kent ends up in the stocks, I believe.
Yep. Though, as we discussed in a prior episode, he kind of earned that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
On the one hand, yes. On the other hand, also kind of deserved it.
Yeah, like, that's what makes this kind of fun. Is like, Goneril and Regan are undisputedly not great people, but a lot of what Lear gets from them, he kind of invites. But yeah, the fact that then they immediately start trying to screw each other over, the fact that Regan is fully complicit in the blinding of Gloucester, and that they basically start plotting to kill each other because they're both into Edmund, they're not getting a pass. They're getting some explanation, but they're not getting a pass. And honestly, the fact that nothing seems to be enough for either of them is what sets them against each other. Greed begets more greed. The purpose of greed is to hoard, because if you spend it, you don't have it anymore.
Yep. We had this problem with Scrooge. Scrooge was, described as super wealthy and had access to plenty of money and was making plenty of money from his business, but he barely paid his employees anything. He ate a piecemeal, cheap meal at the tavern after work. He barely kept his office warm enough to function, and he lived all alone in a barely lit townhouse that he basically only used the barest parts of it that took as little as possible to fund. Because otherwise, that would be using up the money he was hoarding.
Yep. Which, again, brings us back to Edmund, since we've already had to bring him up. Like, most people in his position would be desperate to have the love and acceptance that he has. His father and brother adore him, and he's treated as well as an illegitimate son can be expected to be treated. He's clearly been educated. He's clearly given a respectable position in the house. but he's not the heir. So he doesn't really get much of anything in the end. But it's not as though he'd be left with completely nothing, because Edgar clearly cares for him and would take care of him, would make sure he's not completely left out in the cold. This is a better position than most people would ever find themselves in. But, as we mentioned, it's not enough. He wants it all, and he is willing to stab everyone in the back to get it. He frames... Hi, puppy. He frames Edgar for attempted murder and gets him exiled. He then turns his attentions to ousting his father so he can just step into his role and get his title, which he does. He gets everything he wants, basically, until Edgar shows up and beats him in a duel.
Yep. Which, on the one hand, you could say he has a very decent scheme. On the other hand, his scheme only really works because his father and half-brother are very trusting.
And this kind of brings up the other point that kind of ties into this of when everyone around you is a treacherous, scheming liar, honesty is lethal.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Cordelia. She tells her father honestly how much she loves him. She's basically disowned and exiled for her pains, and this kind of may or may not be a big backdrop in why England and France are fighting each other. It's never made explicitly clear.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the intended implication.
But yeah, like the fact that she told the truth put her in a position where she could not safely return to England, and because she's an important figure on the opposing side, it doesn't protect her at all. She dies for it. Mm-hmm. Edgar and Gloucester are honest people. The fact that they trust Edmund without, looking into any of his outrageous claims, it ends badly for both of them.
Yep, they take his word for it on everything, and it gets Gloucester blinded, and Edgar is effectively that's why. Edgar effectively exiled until such time as he manages to work his way back into a position where he can get his revenge. By which point, of course, he stopped trusting his brother. And, gotten information by way of, portraying Tom of Bedlam, and otherwise worked his way into position to, just to do his thing.
Yep. But, yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say here.
I think that's about covers it.
Alright, until next.
Alright, see y'all then.